What's up, y'all? Today is the 17th, as far as I'm aware. It's a Tuesday of June 2025. My name is Evan Strong. This is In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 133. Welcome. Okay, I wrote this little thing about 3 minutes ago. This title is actually The Day That Never Comes, which is tomorrow. And so check this out. Ready? It goes something like this. Living for tomorrow, but we're in today. We're living for tomorrow, but actually we're here. Okay, something along the lines of that. It was some of the lines that I wrote about a minute ago, plus maybe 3 or 4. So, yeah, today is, I didn't check the date, but I think it's the 17th, like I said. I'm not entirely sure, man, but I think that is the date. Of June 2025. So, here we are, episode 133 of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, and I really want to get into this, all right? I want to talk about some things because there's some things to talk about. So, here we go. We have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ here under In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. This is 1/3 of our company as a whole, okay, In the Image Clothing Company, and we just discuss things as they are because that's the whole thing. Is I say, yes, the gospel of Jesus Christ, but aka the truth of all things. We just talk about things as they are because we're all human beings on the same earth with one God. So we discuss it, okay? Deeply, thoroughly, blunt, bold, raw, and real, as I say, okay? Yeah. Now, let's talk about each of the other 3 sides of In the Image Clothing Company, where clothing sits, and then we'll get into the discussion, okay? We have our main side of In the Image Clothing Company, where it all started. Holy Hannah. Still and always our main side, but we allow the human body to work. We do it through clothing. It's the only thing placed onto the human being physically, so it's the only thing that has that high of a potential to alter us. Clothing has to stay centered, fit correct, be made from 100% natural materials, ideally. And that's how we allow the human body to work, because the human body is natural. The human body has a center line on Earth's gravity. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw, all in the center. Feet arches opposing the center, gripping inward, keeping us vertical. And yeah, it needs to fit correct. We're all discussing in a minute, okay? But we talk about eating, sleeping, standing, sitting, walking, hydration, breathing, all the things that we do as a human being physically, because I understand the human body in depth, and I show the anatomy and discuss it, okay? Deeply. Now, we have another 4th of us in the Image Clothing Company music, and I currently have this little beautiful JG610R by Johnson. It's got nylon strings, because I am Evan Strong, and I do crazy things with nylon strings. But I show how to size and set up guitars to not alter the body. This is a 3/4 size guitar because, the body's about its neutrals. It's about the skeletal system, the thing that doesn't change. The fat content does, the muscle mass does, okay? But the body's about its skeletal frame, and there's a neutral, like the neutral wrist, the neutral jaw, the neutral spine with that slight natural curvature, the neutral pelvis, posteriorly tucked with the core activated, right? Neutral ankle, neutral feet. Everything just has a neutral in the body, and it has to reside in that, okay? We have another 4th of us that is In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. We specialize in purebred standard poodles. It's going to be massive. Don't say my word for nothing, but stick around. A lot of advocating for dogs in a lot of ways. Okay, proper breeding. We will be breeding standard poodles, registering them through the American Kennel Club. We talk about the need for dogs to be registered. Poodle parade events, man, is something we will have, and it's going to be awesome. We just come together, bro, and just hang out with dogs. I'm picturing having so many poodle parade events. They're not parades, but we'll do things like our Clean the Creek events where we clean up trash in rivers or waterways, and our dogs will be there, and we'll just have a good time because we let dogs stay natural. That's our slogan for In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. Oh my goodness, we do so much for dogs. Products, right, as well as human being clothing on InTheImageClothingCompany.com that can be used for any dog. But we talk about keeping dog collars centered and light, minimal, natural materials where we can. Leashes, harnesses, all these things, man. Debunking myths of why dogs don't listen and talking about just how to be a good owner, and also just, being a big name in poodles, truly, in the Image Clothing Company poodles, okay? It's going to be just more and more as it goes on, okay? And I love it. My whole heart's in it, dude. Poodles, I love them so much. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be so crazy. The magnitude, I keep saying it, but how big that fourth of all that we are is going to be. It's almost like the side that I'm prompted to push only as far as right now. Like really, really, really just talk about it. All that we're going to do with poodles under In The Image Clothing Company poodles, okay? So stick around for it. Expect it. Expect big things. Expect us to give a lot of beautiful information and have a lot of beautiful events that you can come to here in the state of Utah, the United States of America, okay? So, clothing for everybody needs to sit in the same location. Pants that we wear, they have to be entirely above our hips, so they don't restrict our hips. Slightly higher in the front than the rear for the waistband angle. That's just the only way we can keep our hips neutral and our core muscles just working. They're just there to work. That's why the body is what it is. It's a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. It can only ever work activated as a whole. Otherwise, it's just trying to compensate, and it cannot. Our tops have seams that are on top of our shoulders. They need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders because our shoulders only ever work behind our head. That's just where the musculature inserts and where the bones sit. Now, the edge seams of our shoulders need to be right at the very edges of the joint of our shoulders because that's where it moves. And then we have two things we call prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company. We have to weave ropes across our feet the only way the feet are shaped. That's what we title In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, found wherever you can find our 5-word name as a whole. And then we tie our shoes evenly over toward the center line of the human being because there's two sides to the body. And then we remove all tags as the second prerequisite because they're either causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, or just not allowing the musculature of the body to activate, and then damage. Chronic patterning and scar tissue gets built up over years and years, bone spurs, these type of things, and we show how to get out of this stuff under the Image Clothing Company. Truly, that's what we do, okay? Physically for the human body, as well as all the other things that we do, and stick around for the poodles. Please. Yeah, I don't do it for me, but if you like poodles, it's just going to be really awesome, okay? It's going to be unreal. It's going to be crazy. Now, going along with that, though, the title of this is The Day That Never Comes, which is tomorrow, right? Like my little song I just wrote about 3 minutes before I started filming. At least part of a song, right? Yeah. Tomorrow never comes, but people often end up living for tomorrow. And they'll schedule their every day trying to better their tomorrow. And I was just on a walk coming home, and I thought about this, where we've lived so many tomorrows, but we'll never actually get to one, right? Let's say, again, I'm not entirely certain that today is the 17th of June, 2025, but it's a day right around there if it's not that. But let's say it's the 17th of June, 2025, okay? If not, it's, like I said, a Tuesday, whatever day that was on this year. But, if I'm waiting for the 18th to come, being today's tomorrow, well, it never does. Until now it's the 18th, after, time has passed, I've gone to sleep and woken up. And now it's just today. It didn't exist until it was today. And then, after it goes to being the 19th, I've actually lived what was once tomorrow, but it had to have come and gone first. Because, let's say now it's the 19th, the 18th, that's now yesterday, was that tomorrow that I got to live. Tomorrow doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the future at all. It literally does not exist. There's an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled One Eternal Round. God's course is one eternal round. He's perfectly almighty, always ever present here and now only. There's no tomorrow. Time is just a thing that we're, kind of like bound by as human beings, just because of like our expiration dates, if you will. The human flesh will just eventually wither away and die. Man is returned to Earth after he has once been pulled from it. That's not how it's phrased exactly, but yeah, human beings, mankind is pulled from the clay, and then one day we return to it. That's basically how it's worded. That's a scripture verse, right? We're just Earth, and that's why I talk about natural things, right? Natural materials in our clothing. Ideally, we never eat anything that has any artificial anything in it, because it's not real. It's entirely fake. There's only natural, right? The goal is natural under all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled probably that. Something about natural. I think it is titled The Goal is Natural. But there's no tomorrow. Just ever. There's no opinion, there's no belief, there's no whatever. It just doesn't exist. And so the day that never comes is the day that so many people spend their whole nows, meaning just all of their entire life, living for. People will save up all their money for tomorrow, or tomorrow's tomorrow times however many, right? If it's like years in the future that doesn't exist, right? There's no such thing. It's the day that never comes. And whether it is saving money, whether it is waiting for a perfect opportunity or a perfect time, whether it is feeling like you can't do something until whatever you think might happen down the road someday, maybe in a tomorrow that doesn't exist. There's only today, and there's no belief to have. It's the truth. It's just how it is. Sometimes people will be so excited for something to happen tomorrow that they don't do anything in their today because they're just waiting and waiting, preparing in ways they don't really need to, but they're just so worked up, so excited. And then, once it comes to being the time that thing was going to happen, it just doesn't end up happening. And now you wasted your only now waiting for a never. Tomorrow is basically a synonym with the word never or not. I mean, it doesn't exist. And so I think a lot of people think they're so far ahead in life, or they're doing such good things, or what I mean by that is that they're better than another human being. Because they've gone to university or college or education of some type, right? And they've worked their way up in some career or whatever it is, and maybe somebody else hasn't. And so this person's looking down on the other person that hasn't, thinking that they're better than them, because what they feel like they've done is prepared themselves for a tomorrow, right? Like with the university example, or college, or just education that is very weird and unnatural in all the ways that we have talked about up until now, man. And we have under In the Image Clothing Company. We could get into that deeply as a discussion, but then they graduate from their schooling thinking that their tomorrows are all set up for, and then when their tomorrows actually exist because they have become todays, now they're looking around and realizing they can never actually do the thing that they thought they were going to, that they prepared for so much in their college, schooling, university, because it either ends up being something they don't want to do, something that they can't find a way to do, something that's not what they expected, but they prepared for a tomorrow that doesn't exist. And then once they kind of got dropped into their today, meaning sort of woke up to the fact that they're only ever today, they're lost. Because people get used to living in hypotheticals. They get used to living in talking about things. And that might be an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast by itself, talking about things. I'm almost certain I've said that phrase on In the Image Clothing Company podcast before, but that's something I started seeing quite a bit a couple years ago. A lot of people just talk about one day talking about things. It's dude, we were going to have a discussion on this. Yeah, let's schedule a time to talk about something, but they're talking to the person right now, right? Anyway, it's tomorrow's tomorrow that doesn't exist because the first one doesn't either. It's you're only now. Yikes. Yeah, we could get really deep with that. So the point is, though, you're only now. That's what the point is. That's what I just was saying as well. And so you're not actually getting ahead of anything. when you're only ever where you are, right? Like that phrase I've said, wherever you go, there you are. People try to escape themselves by taking themselves somewhere that they weren't previous, and it's still them that went, right? You try to get to tomorrow so that by the time it's today, oh wait, right? It's only ever now. And so we've touched on these things often, actually, under In the Image Clothing Company podcast, but I think people look at people's lives and think that they're not doing as much as they could, or think that, like, there's no way they could be fulfilled, or like they're wasting their time because they're not preparing for something else. But that's actually what's wasting your time, is preparing for something else instead of just living where you are. And so, like, my life, bro, if I'm using myself as an example right now, and I am, and I do that often, that's kind of the position I'm placed in as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company and what we do here. I have a life that a lot of people think is a waste of time because I don't go to schooling post high school. I graduated high school, but even that I didn't want to do. It's probably, in most all cases, a good thing that I did, and I got kind of like pushed and helped to do that and to want to finish graduating high school. But people put importance on college, and they put importance on spending so much of their time preparing for something that so often doesn't end up ever happening. And then they've wasted their time. And all we have is time. Like I said at the beginning there, that's really what governs us, out of like a worldly standpoint of governing us as human beings, is that click of the clock, the tick of the talk. Right? A metronome, bro. That's what a lot of people live their life by in ways that's not so natural. Because it's just, we got to use our time the best we can, not prepare for one day when we won't have it, because what you're doing is not using the time that you do have if you're trying to spend that time preparing for another time. Tomorrow doesn't come, ever, and it never could, it never will, ever, at all. And so, stop wasting your life. And it's weird. That's why, it gets phrased as the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. It's backward. People in the worldly lenses of looking at things think you need to prepare for life to start. Yeah, life. There's no such thing as life starting. You're only now. Either you die like this instant or you don't. And either way, there's nothing else besides where you currently are. Tomorrow doesn't come. So what I'm saying with it being the paradox is it's the people who may seem like they're not doing enough with their life to some that are actually the most fulfilled, because the only thing that you can consider your life is this instant. Always. Meaning now this instant. And now this instant. And those other ones I just mentioned, they don't exist anymore. They're done. But this instant does. Do you see what I'm saying? You just get more aggressive with it each time. This instant, Yeah. That's how it is. And so, tomorrow never comes. It never could. Ever. And so I'm fulfilled, bro. Don't believe me. I say it often. And I continually will if I do. Don't believe me, Evan Strong, under In the Image Clothing Company content of any kind as the founder, or just in my life in general, no matter who you are. Don't believe me, because truth is truth. Don't let me try to tell you how content I am, right? Because I could say whatever and who cares if I'm just trying to claim something or make something up, right? Just in every sense of anything, don't believe human beings. There's only truth, and people can just relay the truth. But they don't get to decide it or anything, or change it by any means, okay? No. But I'm content, I'm fulfilled, even in moments when I mean, not always. I'm a human being, but what I mean is, I could never be more content by trying to prepare for something to come. There's no such thing as things to come. And in the scripture it says the whole point of this life is to prepare for living eternally with God. And yes, but the way you do that is by doing it here on earth, right? By, as we're commanded, to pray continuously without ceasing, and yeah, look unto the Father in every thought, doubt not and fear not. These are present tense things. These are nows. These are not read all your scriptures and get an A+ on the test so that once you do die, you might be able to be content once, heaven is where you are dwelling rather than the earth. No, we're here and we can actually dwell in God's presence now. Yeah. It's about now, man. I mean, there's only now. There's no such thing as tomorrow. It's just the day that never comes. And we, hear this correct, have to be content with where we are right now. Otherwise, we could never possibly, out of like our own doings, right? There's nothing impossible with God. But out of us, living our earthly existence in this probationary state of this life on earth, we could never possibly, out of our own doings, be content living for something to come, even expecting something to come. The only way you could ever possibly, and I want to hit that hard, that's the truth, be content, is if you're content where you are right now. Because you can never be anywhere else. Ever. Because even once you die and go to heaven, well, that's the now. It's not down the road somewhere. It happens when it happens, and things happen in the blink of an eye, right? Meaning they only happen now. There's only now. Ever, always, no opinion that anyone could ever have. So let me stare down your, what are those things called? Pupils, right? The dark black parts in the center of the eyeball. They're just only now. Tomorrow never comes. It never could. And so, yeah, I mean, there's no such thing, because that's what people do, right? They're like, well, I'm just preparing so I can have a good, nice, content, happy future. What? What if you don't have a future? What if you die and, oh, he died, right? I don't even give an amount of time, because what if he died when I was saying it? In the now. Then the dude's dead, or the chick's dead. Then the man or woman has died, right? Deceased. Ceased to live. Gone to live with the Father, though. There's only now. And so, stop living for tomorrow. Because we're actually just here. And once tomorrow comes, well, it didn't, but now it's today. Which is weird, because that's what it was yesterday. Is now. So, that's just how it is, bro. It's weird. I mean, people, because, people have talked to me my whole life about, well, don't you one day want to have, and then they'll say anything else after that. And I'm like, well, I don't know. What if I don't have that one day? Meaning, like, yeah, any one of them that's not this one. When I was a little kid, dude, I was born with a heart defect. I was born with a hole in my heart, and, I've had leaky valves, my tricuspid valve and my pulmonary valve. I've had my pulmonary valve replaced with what they called a melody valve. It's like an artificial mesh caged valve. Yeah, right. I've mentioned it, and I only say it to give context, not if it's relating to what I'm talking about. I don't care for anyone to care at all. But I've had 6 heart surgeries, and 2 of them were full open heart surgeries where my sternum was cut entirely in half. I've got like a big, about 8-inch scar on my right rib cage, kind of like right below my right scapula, right around that area. I mean, as a little kid, dude, I almost didn't make it. I mean, you don't gotta care. I'm just giving context. Like, there wouldn't have been any kind of tomorrow to have if I would have died, and that's just the case for any of us. And so people ask me questions like that, and they have all my life. That's just a question that gets asked in the world. It just happens. I hear it, from person to person. And again, like I'm saying, to me, right? It has been asked so many times. Well, one day, don't you want to have this and that? What do you want to do when you're, and they'll say like older or whatever. Well, I'm never going to be older. I'm only going to be what I am at that age that I am, right? There's no such thing as tomorrow. And I don't want to say this with any kind of pride, but as I say, it's just the case. There's no denying it or disputing it unless you just want to be so right. But, so who's really right then? An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Truth is truth. All I'm saying is that I'm pretty understanding, pretty wise. I've got a lot of life experience, bro, and I see things as they are a lot of the time. Not always, because I'm not perfect, nor will I ever be in this life, right? But I really do understand things deeply, man, and yeah, I mean, I've been given a lot of experiences to be able to, because when you might not even live another day, then you're not thinking about the next day. You're only now. I remember going into surgery at age 15, and because that's a lot of my surgeries that I've had, I was really young. But when I was 15, unless I was 17. I might have been 17. One of those two ages, though, because I did have a surgery at both of those ages. Yes. Shoot, I just want to make sure I'm saying it right for the sake of if I'm saying it at all. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was when I was 17. I got a pacemaker, and it only was in there 2.5 weeks, and it just didn't heal. And that was God-given, because I don't need a pacemaker, because I was 17. And after those 2.5 weeks, you could literally see the numbers on the little device. A pacemaker is just a little flat metal, like battery-filled container. And then there's two little metal leads, meaning just like wires, that they run from there, which is right below your collarbone on your left side. They can put it on the right, but since people are right-handed, right, under In the Image Clothing Company, we talk about the right-handed world. Because that's why people get into such chronic patterning, is their clothing falling to the right side, using things with their right hand, things designed to be used right-handed, knots like shoelaces and drawstrings being tied to the right. So they normally put pacemakers on the left side of people, just so it's less inhibiting to the motion of the arm they're going to usually use. But then, that just causes imbalances in the ways that it does anyway. Okay, and I don't need that. And God knew that, because God knows all. So they took the pacemaker out, because they're like, dude, I mean, if this gets infected, the way I phrased that was silly, but yeah, then it goes straight to your heart. Because those leads, they just actually kind of like just drill into your heart tissue. The ends are just kind of like, little like screws basically. And then it sends little electrical signals to your heart, and it shocks your heart to make it beat a little bit faster each minute than it would naturally beat. Because I naturally have a slower heart rate at just, resting pace than most people do. It's somewhere around 40 beats per minute, give or take. It drops into the 30s sometimes when I sleep. And average heart rate for people is somewhere around 60 beats per minute. But there's plenty of people on the earth that just have varying resting heart rates. My mom has never had heart surgeries, and she's just about always, as far as I'm aware, had a resting heart rate somewhere in the 40s as well, right? So we're slightly different, as individuals when it comes to human beings. But yeah, the human body's only normal, right? As I talk about how it's silly, we train the heart to, like, doing cardio to beat so fast until we stop or run. And then it goes back to its only normal, its only resting heart rate, where the body resides almost like 90% of its existence, or give or take. I just mean probably like definitely the majority of our lives, there's only a normal. And then, there's times when we do other things. We're just lost as a society. It's crazy. Truly, it's nuts. And that's one of the big things we talk about under In the Image Clothing Company is just debunking false views on the truth of life. So, when you're going through a major surgery, what I was saying is I remember signing papers, right? Because I was actually old enough to where I was still a minor, right? I mean, technically, legally, you're not like your own human in a sense in the United States of America, at least at this time, until you're 18 years old. And, having my controlling father, he was always just overly in charge of everything. But I do remember, those papers either being signed by my parents or me signing them, which I don't think I would have. I was still just what they, call a minor versus being an adult once you're 18. Because I was 17 years old, at least, unless I was 15, like I'm saying. But I'm almost certain it was the time when I was 17 that I'm thinking about. But these papers, it's basically like, are you aware that you could die from this surgery? And we'll do all that we can to keep you alive and better your life from the surgery, but you definitely might not live because of the surgery that's intending on helping you. And that just happens. I mean, yeah, surgeries can be a big thing for your body to go through. Very invasive and altering to your human flesh. Yeah, but, nothing that I was not new to. I had much more major surgeries than that as a kid. Although I also had, at the same time as having my pacemaker be either put in or taken out because, right, I mean, it was another surgery to take it out only 2.5 weeks later. And they had to, do a full surgery to remove the thing. It's just ironic, it's silly. Well, in a good way. I don't want to talk down on it. It's a good thing. It was used in the ways that it was supposed to by God. Having that be put in and then just taken right back out. That was awesome, actually. In all the ways that, that it was. And maybe we'll talk about that more as time goes on. But, yeah. I also had what's called an ablation at the same time, where they go in and they use, like, excessive cooling, right, to kind of, like, freezer burn, or they call it cauterize, electrical connections in my heart. Because my heart would fire at a rapid pace. They call it tachycardia. So instead of the normal like beat 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 beat, it'd be like it like gets stuck in abnormal rhythm sometimes. When I was like biking hard, I used to ride my bike a lot, mountain biking, or whatever it was. When I would elevate my heart rate, sometimes it would just start to like do an abnormal fast rhythm where it just like wasn't in rhythm, right? Instead of like it'd be like you know what I'm saying? It's just a little bit strange compared to how it's ideally designed by God to work. Yeah, like on tempo in a sense. But that's how I make music a lot of the time, is off tempo. So unorthodox and untraditional. My name is Evan Strong. Welcome to In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. Episode 133, titled The Day That Never Comes. But that's the thing, is you're signing papers, or your parents are doing it for you, saying, yeah, I give you permission to do something to me that might potentially end my life. And then there's definitely no tomorrow to even possibly think about having. Yeah. I was just looking, this device says 20% battery remaining. It actually said it quite a few minutes ago. It's fine. If it cuts, it cuts. It's either the battery died or the storage space got full. Okay, as has happened in past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. Mostly the storage space getting full is what has happened. I don't know if the battery has died on any of these as of today's date. Maybe. I don't know everything. I don't know a lot of things. But I know some things in depth. And I talk about them under In the Image Clothing Company. Life-changing things that are universal to every human on the face of the earth. Truly. Okay? Man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. If you're a human being, your clothing has to sit in the same location. And this is where it is, right? I used to say it like that more commonly than I have lately. been phrasing things a little bit differently lately, and that's fine. Times and places. But I will continue to say what I am saying about, yeah, you go through stuff like that, and you just have to be content. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm allowing these people to, pump fluid into my body that will cause me to go into an unconscious state unnaturally, like induced by human beings. And they're going to cut into me, and I could potentially bleed out. They could potentially cauterize, too many electrical connections in my heart, or the wrong ones, or whatever, right? Like, however that works. Your heart's just an electrical system. I talk about the nervous system of the body, meaning like the sense of touch, and that's what it is. It's an electrical system stemmed from your brain, down your brain stem, through your spine, and then out through your whole body to your extremities, the tip of the toes, the tips of the fingers, and then the tip of the head, which isn't all that far from where the brain's located. Okay. But that's how the heart is it's an electrical system, right? It sends little shocks to tell the heart to beat, and that's what that pacemaker does, is send shocks to the heart before the brain naturally would do it to make it go faster. Yeah, unnatural. And some people need it, so there's a sinus node. That's actually the part of the body that tells the heart when to beat, and determines those little electrical fires, meaning those electrical firings is what I mean. And yeah, if your heart's just going to beat too slow to where you can't pump blood through your whole body enough to keep your body full of blood, right? And then, to your lungs that then oxygenate your blood and then back out through your body. Yeah, right. I really do know how the human body works in depth. There's a lot that I don't know as of now, right? As I say, but I really, really, really do know a lot about it. I do. That's what the whole main side of In The Image Clothing Company is addressing the human body's natural function. Keyword, allowing the human body to work, right? And you kind of got to know how it does, at least pretty darn well, to tell people how it does and have your information be valid, right? And I do, and it lines up, and truth is truth, and, tomorrow never comes. And so, nah, in all seriousness, man, let's keep continuing to be. Yeah. Seriously, though, man, I mean, you're signing your life away, basically. You're saying, yeah, I mean, I basically am giving you full consent to kill me, even though you're going to have every intention to try to not have that be the case. That's what you're telling the surgeons when you go into surgery and sign those forms. And there's just a lot of things in life, man, that are stuff like that, most definitely this moment could be your last one. And stuff like that definitely, and a third, definitely can help you see that there's no such thing as tomorrow. Because it's not a viewpoint, but it's just something that you have to get to the point to where you can see it. Otherwise, you just might not. Right? I mean, it's just what it is, dude. God created a greater light to govern the day and a lesser light to govern the night, right? The sun and the moon. And they just revolve, right, around the earth in the ways that happens. Really, the earth's rotating and going around the sun, and the moon's revolving around the earth. Although, how do we really know? And what's really happening? Right? What I'm saying is, the sun's only up when it's up. It's only guaranteed to be what it is now. Because things are only what they are. As I say, truth is truth. There's only now. There's only what there is. Nothing can ever be anything that it isn't. Today can never be tomorrow. Tomorrow can never exist. Truth. Actually. And so, that's what I'm saying, is that, there's no guarantee that the sun's going to come back up tomorrow. And what's funny about that is the sun never actually comes up. The sun's just a big ball of fire in a vast expanse of space. And we're just on a rock that happens to be close enough to the sun that it got caught into the gravitational pull of this big gas mass that's burning flames and lighting us as far as like visually, right, giving us brightness. And our big rock that's not so big compared to that larger rock out there it might not be a rock, I guess it's a ball of gas, right? The sun, anyway, is rotating that sun, revolving around it. And, it's just because we've got caught in the gravitational pull. It's exactly the correct distance from the sun to where we're not being pulled into the sun and being burned alive, but we're also not being, just flung out into a never-ending space. Oh my gosh. And so if anything happened to where that wasn't happening anymore, then it would never come back up. But it never came up. It's just a ball out there, and we're the ones going around it. And there's no such thing as tomorrow. It's just what we call each of the cycles that happen when the sun ends up being in a location where it's lighting our part of the planet that we're on, and then it's not anymore. And it takes 24 hours, and we've just established that and understood it, but we didn't design it, so we can't decide it. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. That's the title. Do you see what I'm saying? Things are just what they are. Truth is truth. And tomorrow never comes. There's only now. Because our now could be all of a sudden like the sun decides to blow up and we either just, stop being pulled in by its gravity at that point, and now we're just like flung off into space and we die because we get so cold because the sun's no longer in the proximity of distance from us that it has been up until that point to warm us, to keep our bodies at their only normal, which is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Otherwise we die. Or we just burn to death because the sun explodes and, gets closer to us than it is currently. So there's no such thing as tomorrow. Anyway, my name's Evan Strong. This is In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 133, titled The Day That Never Comes. Stick around for the poodles. It's going to be amazing. Thank you. Check out all the other sides of the company if you'd like. If you ever want to purchase anything from In the Image Clothing Company, well, that'd be cool to do. And the only point we ever would have products is if they're actually really good. But then, we have events under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company as well, where I get together with people, talk about the anatomy of the human body, how it works, how to allow it to work, free modifications in clothing, and we'll just, talk about whatever else we do, man. So stick around for the poodles. Purebred standard poodles. I love them. I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, so holy cow. Also, just being 1/4 of our company as a whole, dude. And that's just 1/4 as in like the parts to the company. But as far as how much we do under each of the fourths, I'm telling you, and I'm saying it because it's going to be the case. We're going to be a really, really, really big name in poodles. In the Image Clothing Company poodles. It's going to be huge. It's going to be so big. Because it's just so much more than just breeding poodles. It's so much more than just any one thing. You will see as time goes. Don't believe me? Just stick around and find out. Okay, so... But again, that's what I'm saying, is I'm not making claims because there's no such thing as tomorrow. I'm just, laying these documented videos so when any time down the road, which is actually then today, ends up coming, holy cow, right? You can still watch the videos that I made in the past, but actually they're only now. How does it work? How does it work? What is life really? Whose view is right? Who has a religion to choose from? Not me. I don't believe in anything. Truly, I don't. But I know God. And Jesus Christ is that God. Okay. And the gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. So thank you. Okay. Tomorrow never comes. So don't expect it. Don't wait for it. But I'm telling you a lot of things that are going to happen just because I know they will. And if they don't, hey, if you took my advice and didn't believe me, then you're in the clear. Thank you.